I'm super excited for today's video because I will be sharing all of my summer book recommendations. The majority of all these books are some of my all-time favorites, but I'm also including books that I didn't necessarily love, but I know that a lot of people on the internet, like specifically Book Talk, love. That way you guys have a variety of options to choose from. And yeah, I'm just really excited for all the summer reading. I have a huge summer TBR that I want to get through, and I'll probably be filming a part 2 to this video as well because I have so many book recommendations for you guys. Like, so hard for me to fit all my recommendations in one video. We're just going to jump right in and talk about all the books that I think you should read this summer. The first set of books that I'm recommending to you guys are actually all part of a series that I haven't even finished yet, but I'm absolutely in love with the series so far, and I'm only about 4 books in, and that is the Shatter Me series. I currently read Shatter Me, which is the first book in the series. Then I read the second book, which is Unravel Me, Ignite Me, which is a third book, and I actually gave this book 5 stars. Absolutely perfection. And then the fourth book that I recently read, Restore Me, is also a very good book. And I just think that this series is perfect to read back to back, like on the beach or at home just chilling on a summer day, just because the writing is so simple yet it's so addicting. You can't help but become obsessed with all the characters. The series basically follows a main character named Juliet who has a deadly gift. If she touches anyone, they die. She struggled with this gift her entire life. She's had a very lonely existence because of this gift. She doesn't trust herself around anyone, and people basically don't trust her not to kill them. It also takes place in a dystopian world where there is a new government, a new world order called the Reestablishment, and the Reestablishment wants to use Juliet's power to further their agenda, and it's not a good agenda. All the side characters in these books are just so amazing, especially Warner and Kenji. Those two have my heart forever. I honestly like them more than the main character Juliet. Definitely check out this series if you haven't already. I've talked about this series a lot on my channel, and I'm definitely going to read the rest of the series this summer, but I wanted to mention it because, like I said, I'm only 4 books in and I absolutely love it. I have another series that I want to recommend to you guys. It's probably my all-time favorite fantasy series, and if you have been watching my channel for a while now, then you probably already know what series this is, and it is the Court of Thorns and Roses series. These books are by Sarah J. Maas. The book in the series are A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, Court of Frost and Starlight, which honestly is not my fave book in the series, but I still recommend for you guys to check it out and read it. And then A Court of Silver Flames, which is probably the thickest book in the whole series, but it's so good, so I highly recommend. Also, you don't really have to read the entire series to read this book. If you just want to read one book out of this entire series, probably pick this one up because I feel like it's a good standalone novel since it's kind of a spin-off from the first 4 main books. They honestly just have my heart. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses last year, and I honestly read every book back to back. It took me a minute because these books are hella thick, as you guys can see, and they get thicker as the series goes on. But honestly, this is just like the best fantasy series that I've read. I've read a couple different fantasy series and none of them have come close to these books. Legit. This series is going to make you want to read the book back to back, so that's why I think they're perfect to read in the summer, because you can be chilling at the pool or at the beach and get through these books hella fast. So once you pick them up, you honestly won't want to put them down. Like I said, this is a fantasy series and it follows a main character named Feyre. She is a human who is kind of thrown into this magical world, and she basically has to fight for her survival time and time again. Honestly, you're going to fall in love with all the characters in this series, especially Rhys. The scenery, the characters, the writing, the banter, everything in this series is honestly perfection. I love all the drama. I honestly felt like I was living in this fantasy world. I was obsessed, and I'm kind of sad that I'll never get to read these books for the first time again. I'm actually thinking of rereading all of these books this summer because I love this series so much. Like, I genuinely miss Feyre, Rhys, and all the other characters. This series is also being turned into a TV show, I believe, on Hulu, which I'm super excited about. I can't wait for that show to come out because I'm definitely going to watch it. The next 3 books are all from the same author, an author that I absolutely adore. You probably have heard me talk about these books a million times, but I just think they're the perfect books to read on the beach during the summertime. One of them is actually called Beach Read. As you guys probably probably could have guessed, the author is Emily Henry. Beach read is enemies to lovers, opposites attract. It basically follows two authors, January and Augustus. They are currently living in neighboring beach houses. They're also both struggling with writer's block. One evening after hanging out, they decide to swap genres and to write each other's books just to spark their creativity once again. Honestly, my favorite book from Emily Henry. I gave this book a 5-star rating. I loved all the characters, specifically January and Gus. Augustus lives in my head rent-free. He's one of my favorite all-time book boyfriends. I honestly just can't recommend this book enough. I feel like you either love or hate this book, but honestly, I just love it. And her second book, People We Meet on Vacation, is one that I didn't really enjoy all that much, but I'm still going to mention it because a lot of you guys and a lot of people online have raved about this book, but again, it just wasn't my favorite. And I feel like if you enjoy beach read, then you probably won't enjoy People We Meet on Vacation, or vice versa, just because they're two completely different tropes. So if you like enemies to lovers, then you'll probably like this one. And if you are more of a friends to lovers type of reader, then you'll enjoy People We Meet on Vacation a lot more. I'm not a huge fan of friends to lovers. It's never done well for me. This one basically follows two best friends, or two former best friends, Poppy and Alex. They used to vacation every summer together until something happened about 2 years ago. They stopped talking to one another. It's told in alternating timelines, like in the past and then in the present. In the present time, Poppy misses Alex a lot, so in one last effort to get their friendship back to where it was, she invites him on a summer vacation as one last hurrah. Through them spending time together, her hope is that they can become friends again, because once again, she misses what they used to have. I didn't really like this book because of the ending. It just didn't seem realistic to stop talking to your best friend because of that one thing that happened. Again, I'm just not a fan of friends to lovers, but a lot of people love this book, so again, mentioning it. The next book by Emily Henry is Book Lovers. I feel like this book doesn't get a lot of love. A lot of people hate it, and I completely understand why. It's labeled as a romance book, but honestly, the romance takes a back seat to the main plot, so I can totally see why people felt like they were misled with this book, because People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read are definitely romances, but this one focuses more on the main character's growth throughout the book, which I didn't mind. I absolutely loved this book. I think I gave it 4 stars. This book takes place in the summer in a small town, which I love, and it follows Nora, who is a book agent. She basically feels like she can't be the main character in her life. She's always a side character. Because of this, she decides to go on a sister trip. And during this trip, she keeps running into a book editor named Charlie. They met a few years ago and it did not go well at all. And the fact that they keep running into each other is kind of hilarious because they did not get along the first time they met. But again, the romance kind of takes a back seat to the main plot. This book focuses a lot more on Nora. So if you go into this book thinking that it's going to be mainly about Charlie and Nora's romance, you're definitely going to be disappointed. But I think if you go into this book knowing that the romance takes a back seat and that it's more about Nora's character growth and development, then you'll actually enjoy this book for what it is. I loved this book, and I'm kind of sad that it gets such a bad rap. I've seen people bash this book so much, but I definitely think it's worth the read this summer. Then we have Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is a YA romance book. If you love romantic comedies, then you're absolutely going to love this. It's definitely a romantic comedy movie in a book. It has adorable, hilarious moments, and you honestly just can't help fall in love with the main character, Liz. Like, she has my complete heart. She was so cute, so adorable, such a sweetheart. It follows Liz, who is a hopeless romantic. She is a rom-com movie lover, and she wants the type of love that is shown in those movies. So when her crush moves back into town, she is determined to make him fall in love with her because she believes that she's madly in love with him. In order to get her crush to notice her, she requests help from her neighbor, who she absolutely hates. So it's kind of like enemies to lovers. But through that process of trying to get her crush to fall in love with her so they can have an epic love story like in the movies, she realizes that she doesn't really know what true love is. So she questions everything she's ever been taught on love and realizes that she might actually have feelings for her neighbor after all. Again, such a cute little adorable, heartwarming romantic comedy. It's pretty short, so you'll probably be able to finish this book during one of your beach trips this summer because it's very easy to read, super simple writing, but still very heartwarming, and you're not going to want to put it down. So definitely recommend that one. And then another pretty short book is When When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This is a small town romance, opposites attract, kind of grumpy sunshine as well. It follows Amelia, who is a pop star. She is desperate to get away from her life. She needs a break from her pop star life. So inspired by her favorite movie, Roman Holiday, she leads in the middle of the night to Rome, Kentucky, where she crosses paths with Noah. And Noah is definitely the grump of the town, but he agrees to show her around town, and they end up realizing that they actually have a lot more in common than they originally thought. This book is also dual POV, which I love a romance book with dual POV. It makes me feel like I get to know the characters a lot more, and it makes me enjoy the book 10 times more than if it was just single POV. The good thing about this book is that it's also closed door romance. I know that a lot of you guys are always asking me for closed door romance recommendations, so if you're not into spicy books, then definitely check this one out because there's literally like no spice. The spice is alluded to, but it's not portrayed like some of these other romance books are heavily spicy. Then we have Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This is such a heartbreaking book, but it's so good. It's also a 5-star read. For me, I loved reading this entire book. I was in tears as I was reading this book, and no, I still have not watched the movie. I don't know why, I just haven't been able to sit down and watch the movie. I'm kind of afraid to because I love the book so much. I don't know if the movie is going to live up to the book, so I've been putting it off. But this is basically a coming of age story. Basically get to see the main character from the time that she's 6 years old to when she passes away. It follows Kaya, who has been abandoned by her entire family. Because of this, she has grown up in a marsh by herself and she's had to fend for herself. Kind of has a little bit of a murder mystery as well, and the ending took me by complete surprise. I think I have a reading vlog where I read this maybe during a 24-hour reading challenge, and I literally cried at the ending, and I very rarely cry with books, but this one definitely brought out the tears in me, and I highly recommend. And then the next 3 books that I want to share with you guys are from the same author, and the author is Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have fallen in love with Taylor's writing, and I was one that really didn't find her books all that interesting, and I read one of her books I think last month and absolutely fell in love with it, and now I have fallen into a rabbit hole and I've been reading all of her books. 3 of her books I think are perfect to read in the summer because they're super quick and they're also very addicting. The first one being Daisy Jones and the Six. This is the first Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I read, and I absolutely fell in love with her writing. It actually takes place in the 1960s and 70s. It follows the rise and fall of a band called Daisy Jones and the Six. The book is written as if it were the oral history of a real life band. Like, as I was reading this book, I was questioning myself and I was like, is this based on a true story? Does this band really exist? Like, Taylor does a great job with her writing and making you feel like you're living in the time period of the book, that you're living right there alongside the characters as you get to read their story. And I just absolutely fell in love with the vibes in this book, and I can't recommend this one enough. The synopsis honestly does not sound interesting at all, so if you're like me and you've been putting off reading this book because it just doesn't seem appealing, do me a favor and just read it because you'll probably end up loving it. 99.9% sure that you'll end up loving it. I regret not picking it up sooner, and I still haven't watched the show on Amazon, but I've heard great things, so one of these days when I have time, I'll sit down and watch the show. And after I finished Daisy Jones and the Six, I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This one is another amazing book. I honestly enjoyed this one a lot more than Daisy Jones and the Six. I gave it a 5-star rating. This one basically follows the main character, Evelyn Hugo. She's basically telling her life story as a old Hollywood icon, and the book is divided into 7 parts. Each part is dedicated to one of Evelyn's 7 husbands, and you basically get to see how she started in Hollywood and the things that she had to do to protect herself and to protect her loved ones. It's a very heartbreaking story at times, but it's also very empowering. Like, Evelyn Hugo knew exactly what she wanted and she wasn't afraid to go after it, which is what I loved about her character. And even though she did a lot of questionable things, you have to respect the fact that she did it out of love for those around her or to protect herself. Again, the writing is 10 out of 10. You can't help but fall in love with the main character. You can't help but feel like you're living her life right there with her. And the scenery, the writing, side characters, everything in this book was perfection. So highly recommend. This is another book that is not super long, and honestly you could probably finish in one sitting. This next one is going to be like an honorable honorable mention just because I haven't really finished it. I'm currently reading it. I'm about 150 pages in and I absolutely love it. It's Malibu Rising. This one takes place in 1983. It follows 3 siblings who are the children of Meg Riva, which I think Meg Riva, if I remember correctly, was mentioned in The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So it kind of comes full circle and I love that. But the scenery in this, it makes you feel like you're in Malibu. It has just all the perfect summer vibes. It has family drama, which we love, and it's just very entertaining. Again, I haven't finished it yet, but I feel like I'm going to love it, so I decided to mention it. The next book that I want to mention is A Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch. If you want summer vibes, read this book. It takes place in Tuscany, and it follows a main character named Lena. Lena recently lost her mother, I believe to cancer, so she is spending a summer in Italy with her father. The only thing is that she just met her father. She never knew who he was until the minute her mom was passing away. So clearly she doesn't want to be in Tuscany. She wants to be in her hometown with her friends to grieve the loss of her mother. Once she's in Italy, she finds a journal that belonged to her mother and she gets to experience Italy through her mother's eyes. And it's just a very heartwarming book. I love the writing. I did not think I was going to enjoy this book mainly because it's YA, but I fell in love with it. The vibes again were immaculate. While I was reading this book, I wanted to book a trip to Italy so bad because of the scenery and how the writing was. Again, 10 out of 10. Such a cute, heartwarming story. So definitely check this one out if you want good summer vibes. And then I have 2 books here that I don't really love. I did not really enjoy reading these books, but again, the internet seems to love them, so I thought I would mention them. The first book being My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. This actually takes place in the summer on Cape Cod, which you already know the vibes are immaculate, but I didn't really like the plot. I didn't really like the 2 main characters. I found it a little too spicy for my liking. It's a murder mystery slash romance, but honestly it's more spicy romance than anything else. The murder mystery isn't the main focus of the book, and I thought it was going to be the main focus when I picked this one up, and I think that's why I was so disappointed. It is a pretty short book, so again, another book that you'll probably be able to finish in one sitting, but it's definitely not my fave book. And then we have Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This is Love in Other Words 2.0. It is childhood friends to lovers, second chance romance. It's told in alternating timelines, basically told over the course of 6 summers in one weekend. I didn't really enjoy Love in Other Words. I enjoyed this one a lot more than that book, but then the ending just ruined the entire book for me, and I just couldn't get behind that specific trope that was mentioned. But if you can get past that trope, then I think you'll really enjoy this book because the summer vibes are just so amazing in this. I really like the main characters up until the end of the book. Definitely proceed with caution with this one. So these are all the books I recommend that you read this summer. I probably will be rereading some of these books this summer because I love them so much. Let me know in the comments below if you have any summer book recommendations for me, any books that you think I should check out this summer. I would love some good book recommendations, and I hope that you walk away from this video with at least one good book recommendation that you'll pick up and that you'll love. But that is pretty much it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you a part of my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.